In our series of invasive species, we talked about why we should be addressing invasive species. Also, we talked about the what species to look for. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to address invasive species.
Mossy Oak Properties, where outdoorsmen find their favorite place.
This last video in our invasive species control series, we're going to talk about the fun part of invasive species control.
This is the part that some people, I won't name any names, lives for this part, is like Einstein when it comes to this stuff.
I enjoy it. It's hard work. It's work that I love. And what's really cool to me are the different ways that you can do it, which not to make it personal, but I enjoy killing non-native invasive plants. So it's cool to have like an arsenal of tools that you can get them to meet their maker. And that's what we're going to go over in this video, are the different application methods. And just as cool as it is the different application methods, it's cool the equipment we can make use of and really how easy it is. It is hard work, but it's not a difficult process.
As we mentioned in the introduction of this series, it is time consuming. It can be costly and it can be hard work, but we tend to sometimes, with all that attacking you, we kind of tend to overthink things. Right. And the tools can't, like, hey, I need to buy this, I need to buy this. Not necessarily. You probably have a lot of this in your garage, in your barn, etc. Having all the tools of trade's one thing, but you gotta know your herbicides.
Right, and there are a lot out there. It can be a little overwhelming if you're unfamiliar with them. And not to beat a dead horse, but if you are unsure, talk to a state biologist or your forester and they can push you in the right direction. But generally speaking, for these woody, shrubby plants, Garland, triclopyr, glyphosate, and different applications and the methods which we'll go over can treat your woody, non-native invasives, clethodim, and other grass-specific herbicides for your Japanese stilt grass and other non-native invasive grasses. But just as important as identifying which plants to kill, it's important to know which herbicides to apply to those plants.
And that's why when you get those herbicides, when you're at Tractor Supply or you're at Forestry Supply, you read the label. And that is so hard to do for all of us. Read the label. They'll tell you how many ounces per gallon or per acre, etc. It's all written right there. Take the time, and if you don't know, we can't pound this home any harder. Read the label. If you don't know, you ask somebody that has done it before, a professional. And
once you've read the label or have a mentor or met with a forester, that gives you the confidence to do this confidently and know that you're doing it the right way, not killing non-target native plants and killing only the plants that we want to remove.
And don't let any of this scare you off. It's more of a safety type thing than anything. That's all that really is. And cost effectiveness as well.
Absolutely. But to get started, it's not a lot of equipment to do this. It's your basic land management tools. A little chainsaw, an electric chainsaw is really helpful.
EV.
A lot. Exactly. They're lighter, save on gas, a heck of a lot easier to carry through the woods. A squirt bottle, a hand sprayer or a backpack sprayer. Of course, if you're running the chainsaw, wear your chaps and helmet. But first method and tool we are going to go over is this hand sprayer. And this is what I would use for basil bark application. What a basil bark application is you're using a carrier. I use diesel fuel because at one time it was super cheap. It's a little more expensive now.
A little bit more.
But any penetrating agent with the right herbicide, and you spray from ground level to 18 to 24 inches, 360 degrees around the stem. And the diesel, kerosene, crop oil, penetrating oil transmit the herbicide into the plant that way. And it's a really effective way to limit your non-target and your unintentional kill because you're targeting a stem on a plant. I don't treat big trees with the basil bark method, usually from stems about as big as my finger, maybe up to a big around as my calf. But it's an incredibly effective and efficient way to kill non-native invasives because you're targeting that plant. Don't want any runoff. It just takes a little bit, up to 18 to 24 inches up the bark, 360 degrees, and that plant is dead, doesn't know it yet.
And you notice that Cody has just a little hand sprayer. Tractor Supply, Rural King, etc. You can get these things are basically throwaways, they're very inexpensive.
Right.
And it's funny, you start out with that, next thing you know, you got this big old thing on your back because you're just addicted, you got to kill everything. And it's funny, don't be afraid to use your innovation, like these nozzles, these tips of it. There's some crazy things out there to help you be more effective, cut the time, cut the cost of overuse of the herbicide.
Right.
Yeah, just there's a lot of information, a lot of cool things out there, but the evolution, yeah, well, if you buy this, don't feel like, you know, no,
Right.
don't feel that at all. That's where we got to start somewhere.
Right.
Absolutely.
And another cool thing, and one of the biggest advantages of basil bark application is you can do it year round. January 1st to December 31st. The main thing is that that herbicide is going to get inside the plant because of that penetrating factor, and you can do it when plants are leafing out, as they're going dormant. You're not limited by a certain season like some of these application methods are. This works year round.
Yep. Next thing that we have, a simple squirt bottle.
It's so simple
Squirt bottle.
and so easy. What 24, 32 ounces, you fill this thing up, how many plants, how big of an area you can treat with this. And to use a squirt bottle, there's two different methods, one of which it's called girdle and spray. You're going to take your chainsaw, cut a ring around the tree. It doesn't take much, maybe an inch, maybe
Just
two.
getting that cambium layer.
Just a little bit into the cambium layer and squirting the herbicide into the wound. And again, that tree is dead and it doesn't know it yet. And there's also cut stump treatment, which also works year round, which I use a lot of times on autumn olive because there are so many stems, it's hard to get in there, and basil bark, and you don't want to be foliar spraying and getting herbicide all in the air. I'll just cut smaller autumn olive where there's a bunch of stems, or smaller ailanthus, cut the tree clean off, and you squirt the herbicide in a ring around the cambium layer. Again, you don't have to treat the entire stump, just the outer ring of that stump of the tree or plant that you just cut down.
Yeah, and then Cody talked about the chainsaw, different sizes. You know, this know your target species. Don't be taking out a big chainsaw if you don't have to, if you're just going to be cutting autumn olive or whatever down, you know. Also a hatchet, machete.
Yeah.
You know, anything that you can do to get in there, you know, to put the herbicides and stuff like that.
Right, a hatchet or a machete works really well with hack and squirt.
Yes.
Which is an application that works best midsummer up until fall. As the trees go dormant, they're taking those resources back into the roots, and you'll get a more effective kill. It's 50-50 hit or miss depending on the plant and your region if you try it during the winter. I would stay away from hack and squirt during the winter. Do it after leaf out. Midsummer through fall is going to be your most effective method and timing for hack and squirt. And then finally, we can make use of this hand sprayer or also a backpack sprayer for foliar spray, which is just spraying the herbicide. It's how you kill your food plot.
I like that.
when you're killing vegetation to prep your food plot, that's a foliar spray. You're just spraying herbicide on green and growing leafy vegetation. And what's cool about foliar spray is that it's easy.
Very easy.
And easy is a good thing because you're just spraying the leaves of the plant. And for each plant that I target, I use a different method. And for foliar spray, I do more on the barberry and multiflora rose side of things because it's hard to get up under there, to basil spray. And if you try to cut those stems with a chainsaw, you're going to throw the chain off the chainsaw. So walking up to barberry, those lower shrubs, I can just lightly spray the leaves with the herbicide, and that's an effective kill.
Yeah, even new young growth.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially in a clear cut, like Cody has a lot of clear cut, obviously. All that new growth is right there, low. It's low hanging fruit.
Absolutely. It's really cool. It's effective. And what's another thing to keep in mind is invasive species. It is so overwhelming because once you identify all the plants on your property, you're going to realize how much work it's going to take to get them under control. But don't be overwhelmed. Don't try to do it all in one year. Target a specific plant in a calendar year. Say, all right, this year I'm going to go after barberry. Next year I'll do ailanthus, or split your property up into quadrants and say I'm going to do this part of the property this year, wipe the slate clean. Next year I'll get to another part of the property. Break it up so it's manageable because it is a lot of work and it can be overwhelming, but it absolutely is worth doing and can be accomplished.
In our introductional video of invasive species, Cody mentioned something, and it's about being a land steward. And as you know, it is hard. It is this. We've mentioned this a whole bunch of times, but being a land steward requires some tough decisions, I know this sounds corny, sacrifices. You know, it is for the greater good. And if you don't do it, then it doesn't get done. And then it just continues to grow and grow and grow the problem.
Right. Yeah, it's hard work. It's not for the faint of heart, but every little bit you can do makes a difference. As we mentioned, don't think just about the white-tailed deer when you're out.
Yeah.
Think about insects, because every non-native plant that you remove makes space for a native plant that all wildlife can benefit from, and that is what wildlife management and conservation is all about.
Mossy Oak Properties, where outdoorsmen find their favorite place.